Hi guys.
Hi there.
We are here this evening.
Good evening. She makes her uncomfortable, so it makes me so happy. Last time I said we were here on a Wednesday or a Thursday evening. It wasn't Thursday. It was Wednesday. Yeah.
Giving away our secrets, are we?
Giving away secrets. Well, I uploaded on Thursday morning. So we are here tonight, this evening, with another True Hollywood
Thursday. That was awkward. That's usually the other way around, but whatever.
I'm actually really excited for this True Hollywood Thursday. This has been requested, and I was pretty excited when I first saw that pop up.
Me too.
Ooh, good one.
We knew this was one that we couldn't just do. We had to actually take some time, do some research.
I had to look into it. I've watched countless documentaries.
I've watched 2 and an interview with essentially the bad guy of the story.
Yes, me too. It was very interesting.
Yes.
We'll talk about that. Trust me.
For sure.
Who are we talking about tonight, Dale?
We are talking about the one, the only Selena
Quintanilla-Perez. Yes. So we are going to be talking about Selena tonight, and this was one that we saw that was requested in the comments a few videos back, and we were just like, yes, please.
That one was super exciting to us.
Yes.
So Selena was born April 16th of 1971 in Lake Jackson, Texas.
Yes, to her parents, Abraham Quintanilla Jr. and Marcela Samara.
Yes. Her mother had Cherokee ancestry, and her father was actually Mexican American.
Yes. She had 2 siblings, an older brother named Abraham Quintanilla Jr., or AB, as he went by, and Suzette, her older sister.
Yes.
Yes, she was the baby of the family.
She was. They were, her father was a former musician.
Yes, he had his own Tejano band. I believe they were called Los Dinos, actually.
Los Dinos, yes. And, they were raised in Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, they were.
Which, I don't know, maybe it makes me sound a little bit crazy, but that was kind of surprising to me. Just because, like, her outfits later on in life, things along those lines. I just thought it was kind of crazy. I was like, that's not what I expected to see.
When Selena was young, she demonstrated kind of an interest in music, and so her father kind of formed a little bit of a family band to play at his restaurant, Papagayos. He said that initially Selena, who did love playing music, hated being forced to like play in the family band, and he actually acknowledged that he may have been trying to recapture his passion with his kids.
Which a lot of parents do that. He was quoted as saying, because he caught on pretty young when she was about 6, and he was quoted as saying her timing, her pitch were perfect. I could see it from day one.
Yeah, that she was definitely going to be something.
Yeah.
For sure. She was going to make it. So they would perform at the family restaurant, and, you know, it was just like kind of entertainment for patrons of the restaurant, and, you know.
Selena would sing, her brother would play the bass guitar, and her sister was on the drums.
Yes. And I think they sang mostly English songs. I think I saw a recording of her singing.
What, as a little kid?
Yeah, Michael Jackson and stuff, because she didn't actually speak Spanish. So
yeah, she spoke very little Spanish.
Very little
if any
Spanish.
at all, as a child.
And so, unfortunately for her father, his restaurant was hit by, it's called the 1980s oil glut, but it was essentially a recession that hit in the 80s. And his restaurant was a victim of said recession, and they ended up having to close it. They were evicted from their home, and they lost everything. They had to declare bankruptcy.
But they did end up moving to Corpus Christi.
Yes, they did. Where he then formed the family band, Selena y Los Dinos.
Dinos, yeah.
Yes, kind of as a tribute to his band.
Yeah, Los Dinos.
So the only means of income was essentially the performances from the family band, and it was like he was the manager, and the band was made up of the kids, and so they had to perform, and it was basically the only thing that was putting bread on the table.
Yeah, he had them out there performing on street corners, at weddings, at
fairs,
at
anything
fairs,
that they
at
could find.
Quinceañeras.
Anything that they could find.
No, they weren't, but slowly their popularity did grow.
Yes, it started to grow. Especially with Selena's, God, her voice. Even when she was a child.
Her voice was...
Just hearing her belt out.
Her voice was just outstanding. But that ended up causing a lot of issues with her education.
Yes. With her education, she was actually one of her teachers, Marilyn Greer was her name, threatened to call the Department of Education because she, along with some of Selena's other teachers, this was in the 8th grade, had noticed that Selena was starting to show up to school tired, really tired, and unable to really focus. She also had concerns about, that playing these concerts late at night, these little gigs late at night, was just not really a good environment for a child. And so
I see the point. I kind of do.
Yeah. And her father has since said, did he make a mistake in pushing her so hard? Probably, maybe. He's acknowledged that maybe he pushed her too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he was too aggressive with this whole
Maybe.
the band is everything type of attitude that he created. So he ended up actually pulling her out of school and telling her teachers, concerned teachers, to mind their own fucking business.
Essentially, yeah. Have you guys ever, we'll talk about this more later, but the movie and how the actor who played her father is, super...
Edward James, almost!
He's super, harsh and all those things. That's exactly, I feel like that's probably exactly how he was in real life, just based off of that quote alone.
Just based on the fact that the family contributed to the movie, too. He definitely had a hand in how that guy played him. But anyway... So Selena was enrolled in the American School of Correspondence, I think it was called. And she graduated at 17, like you would, with a diploma, and was actually accepted to Louisiana State University, but enrolled... Mind you, this is all why she's still playing gigs. She's still doing her gigs, and she's still starting to, pick up fame. She enrolled at Pacific Western State and Business Administration.
Yes.
So she was working on her degree.
And all the while, they were working on touring and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. They were doing touring. I think it was mostly around the Southwest area.
Yeah.
Texas, New Mexico,
the style of
Arizona,
music
that kind of stuff. Yeah. Tejano music was very popular in those states. Have you heard that music? It's a lot of fun. I think it's a fusion of polka, European, Mexican. It's a lot of fun. It's really upbeat and just you can just kind of move to it, It's super great.
Their tour bus, fun fact, was a refurbished old bus that their dad made for them, and it was called Big Bertha.
Big Bertha.
It was said that in their first couple years of touring, they were barely they were barely making any money, and they barely had enough money to pay for gas to put in the bus.
Yeah, basically, they were still doing the little gigs and little fairs and everything, parties, little shows, and they were just making
anything they could do.
So in 1984, Selena y Los Dios released their very first album. It was self-titled, and they released it with a company called Freddie Records. I think that may have been the only record that they released with that label, because that's the only record I saw underneath that labels.
That record was, of course, for that album, was, of course, Tejano Style.
Tejano Style, and it was fairly popular. People liked it a lot.
They did. And their dad really pushed them to stay with the Tejano Style, just because he wanted them to have music that was connected to their heritage.
Yes. And so one of the things that we mentioned earlier was that Selena did not speak Spanish, not very much at all. She had maybe conversational Spanish down, the hola and
basic stuff that you would think of somebody who's taken
4
4 years of Spanish in high school.
Yeah.
She had to learn this language, and the way she learned it was pretty interesting. She essentially learned it phonetically while recording.
Yeah, she basically learned, she learned how to sing in Spanish, and then she had to learn how to actually have conversations in Spanish, because in order to promote the album, they wanted to promote in Mexico, and so she needed to be able to promote to Spanish speakers, Spanish listeners. Tejano music is geared towards people who speak Spanish.
Yep. So she did. In 1985, she appeared on a popular Spanish language radio program called the Johnny Canales
Yes.
show where they were out promoting albums, and she would continue to appear on his show quite a bit over the next few years because obviously, spoiler alert, her career was going to take off.
Absolutely take the freak off. Like, she was going to be, you'll find out. You probably already know, but you'll find out.
Most of us probably already know.
So Selena was then nominated for a Tejano Music Award for Best Female Vocalist, and she won.
Where she was also discovered by the guy who actually created or founded the Tejano Music Awards, Rick Trevino.
Yes, she was. And then she actually went on, this is, I thought was a really cool fact, she won that same award 9 consecutive years in a row after that. So, wow.
Female Vocalist of the Year, 9 consecutive years in a row. How insane is that? That's amazing. That's talent. I'm sorry, this chick is just uber talented all the time.
I've never heard her use the word Uber like that before. So, it just goes to show you, man. So, despite the acclaim and the awards and the obvious talent, Selena was often criticized.
Yep.
Simply for the fact that she was a woman.
Yes.
Tejano music is predominantly male-dominated, and promoters and other bands didn't want to play with her. They didn't want her to play any of their gigs because they did not believe that a woman would be able to entertain an audience, command the stage as well as a man would.
Wrong.
Girl, have you met me?
Girl, have you met me? They was wrong.
They was absolutely friggin' wrong.
She ended up, after that nonsense, by 1988, she had already released 5 more records.
5 freaking more records.
Suck it.
Like, I saw some of them were
Suck
like
it,
2
doubters.
in 1 year.
Suck
2
it.
in 1 year.
That's
like,
a hard-working chick.
Absolutely. And she was working to support her family, you know? Like, that was like what she was trying to do, was support her family. Okay, as her fame grew, and this was a cool little thing that I saw about her, as her fame grew, Selena really tried to give back to her community. She would often go to like high schools and stuff and speak to students to encourage them to stay in school. And, you know, she was no stranger to, you know, contributing to her community, because when she was like young, she used to help the Toys for Tots. Like, she used to try to help out with that organization.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So she was always very community minded and very just like generous with her time, with herself, just kind of an awesome human being who wanted to help take care of the people around her. So she would go to these schools and she would encourage them, and I saw something where she said, all of this can go away. They can take all of this away from me, but they can never take away my education. So she was there trying to tell these kids, stay in school, get your education, stay away from problematic things like drugs, like gangs, like don't get involved in that. That's only going to destroy you, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Really
I think
awesome.
that's completely awesome. So in 1989, at another Tejano Music Awards, a man by the name of Jose Behar, who had just formed a new label, EMI Latin Records, actually saw her perform.
Yes, he was there looking for talent. He was looking for new Tejano talent. Like, that was specifically why he was there.
He saw her perform and essentially just like fell in love. He was quoted as saying he had just found the next Gloria Estefan.
Which, that's awesome.
That's a big claim though. That's like a huge claim. Because Gloria Estefan, even in, like, not even in just like the Latin music genre, in just music, is a legend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She is 100% a legend. So he made an offer to the family, to Selena, and was basically like, you know, first of all, I think that's kind of where they disbanded Selena y los Dinos, and they just named the band Selena, because he was honest with them, and he was like, the people want Selena. Her family members stayed on, her brother AB stayed on as like her main writer and producer, and then her sister stayed on as well in the band. But he made an offer to the family, and then Sony Music or Capitol Records, one of those two, came along and offered double. And her father declined more money. He declined more money to go with EMI Latin Records, because they offered the promise of potentially doing a crossover English album, which was very important to Selena.
She very much so
You know,
wanted
English
to do
was her
that.
primary language, you know?
She wanted to sing in English, which is cool.
Yeah. The head of the EMI Records did not believe, honestly, that she could actually cross over successfully, so they kind of gave her a goal, build a bigger fan base within the Tejano and the Spanish-speaking community, and then we'll do a crossover. And so basically she set that as her goal, and she worked as hard as she could.
She, at that point, released a self-titled album in October of 1989. And she recorded most of her songs. And one of the things that I saw about some of these songs was they were actually songs that were originally recorded in Japanese. Like one of them is called Sukiyaki. So she and her brother used translations from Japanese to English and then to Spanish to record some of these songs. Like Sukiyaki.
Sukiyaki.
Which was actually pretty interesting, and that ended up peaking at number 7 on the Billboard Regional Mexican Album Chart.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Becoming her first album to peak on any sort of music chart, which is pretty cool.
That is really cool.
That's a big deal.
Her fame was obviously starting to grow even further now, and so she was offered a sponsorship or a spokespersonship with Coca-Cola. I guess she had been offered a bunch, but her father was really trying to keep her very clean, like squeaky clean, innocent image going, and so like she'd been offered beer endorsements and all that, and her father declined those. But when Coca-Cola came around, he said sure. And so they recorded 2 jingles with her, so 2 commercials essentially, and the 2 jingles were written by her brother and a guitarist by the name of
Chris Perez. Wonder where that Selena Quintanilla-Perez comes from, huh?
I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it,
I don't know, guys.
I don't know. Shortly afterward, very talented guitar player Chris Perez was invited to join the band.
So, little Mr. Perez, I watched an interview with him. It was in one of the documentaries, and, you know, he's talking about his wife and how...
Spoiler alert. He's talking about Selena.
He's talking about Selena, and he is talking about how she was so much fun to be around. She was just an awesome person, and all of these things. But at the same time, he initially looked at her as one of the boys.
Yeah, she was not somebody that he saw, like, he saw her, like, that was his friend. Like, that was his homie, basically, you know? So, you know, as you spend time together,
look who is here to visit us. Handsome Mr. Caleb John. He's doing weird crab dances behind us while we do our makeup.
Yes, indeed.
Alrighty, buddy. We're going to keep filming. I love you, okay?
Okay, so, and as things happen, the more they spent time together, the more Selena started looking less like one of the boys.
And more like a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. He's like, ooh, hey, girl, what you doing? Yep. How you doing, girl?
So he started realizing that he was developing some serious feelings for Selena.
However,
this guy had a girlfriend who lived in San Antonio at the time. So what his decision was he just needed to get some space between him and Selena to try to, you know, figure all of this out. And so...
yeah, because that usually works.
He ended up taking a break. But he realized that he probably, like, he couldn't do it. He could not stay away from her. He loved her so much. And so...
at a
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut.
How romantic. I'm sorry, but as soon as I saw that, I was like,
I'm pretty sure that plays out in the movie, too. They're at a Pizza Hut.
I think they're at a Pizza Hut, yeah. I gotta watch this movie again.
Me
I tried
too.
to find it on Amazon, but it costs money, so, you know. Like, I got Prime, man. I got Prime. Give me Prime Video.
Correct.
But, so, they professed their love to each other at a Pizza Hut.
That's so sweet.
Like, I'm sorry, that's adorable.
I would hope at this time he had already broken up with his girlfriend.
I'm sure he had, but...
okay, I'm just making sure, man. Don't be a big old slut. Or do, whatever.
So they began dating, but they began dating in secret. Secret lover.
Because her daddy was not going to approve of that.
No, her dad
thank you.
had this misconception for some reason that Chris...
was a big old slut? No.
No. That Chris was a chauvinist.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That if he got involved with Selena, that he would make her quit her job and basically become like his housewife. Like basically wouldn't allow her to work, wouldn't allow her to continue with her music. So they kept it a secret. And for a while it was working, except her sister busted him. And her sister
ratted her out.
Ran straight to their father and told him about it. And her father flew off the fucking handle.
I would never snitch on you, dog.
Thanks, dog. I mean,
sister code.
I'm married, bro.
I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying?
She got my back. I got your back.
Oh, see?
So, basically fired Chris from the band. Told him, get away from her. You need to stay away from Selena. You're never to contact us again. Blah, blah, blah. This guy, like, I'm sorry, but he was awfully controlling. I'm sure that he was just looking out for his daughter, but awfully controlling. So, told Chris, go away. Basically fired. But you know what? As it would happen, you can't separate people who are in love.
No.
So, they continued to date in secret. Yes. And then decided one day that they were just fucking done with it. They could not continue to date in secret. I mean, her mom approved. Her mom totally cooled the relationship. So Selena and Chris decided on April 2nd,
1992,
that they were done being a secret, and they went off.
Except for they like secretly did this.
Well, I mean, but within hours it was known. But they were done being, they were done not being together all the time. Like they ran off and they eloped. And it took all of a couple of hours before the news hit. Like,
I'm just curious, how'd the news find out?
Probably the person who married them spoiled it, So, her father lost his ever-loving fucking mind and basically alienated himself.
Didn't he try to break up the band too, as a result?
Probably. He was trying to break up the band constantly, it seems like.
Yeah. He had a little bit of a temper. Not like a, crazy abusive
like
temper,
get
but
my
like
way type temper.
Stomp your feet type temper.
Yeah. He alienated himself from everybody, essentially, and eventually he came around. And once he realized that his fears about Chris were completely wrong, that Chris was not a chauvinist, he was not going to force Selena to quit anything. He wanted her to be successful as much as her father did. He apologized and accepted the relationship. So that's good. That's pretty awesome.
He allowed Chris back in the band.
You definitely hired Chris back in the band. I would hope so. That's your son-in-law, homie. And things continued on in the ever increasingly good way that they had already, been going. Success continued. She continued to record new music. She continued to gain new fans. And
actually, we have to circle back around because prior to their secret elopement, there was a woman who was a registered nurse by the name of Yolanda Saldivar.
Yeah.
Who had gone to a concert of hers. And she was essentially like a super fan.
Yes.
Super duper fan of Selena's. And she had been reaching out to Selena's father in order to create a fan club. She wanted to create a fan club.
Yes, she did. She wanted to create the fan club based out of, I think it was San Antonio, where she lived. And I basically, based on what her dad said, I kind of took it as that should have been a fucking red flag, homie. But she called dozens of times within a couple of months, before he finally was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's start a fan club. But to me, that kind of sounds like it's bordering on harassment,
That's harassment. That's beyond fan.
Yeah.
Also, another thing I have is there's a lot of things about making phone calls to her father. Fans making phone calls to her father. How the hell do fans have access to her dad like that?
I'm sure they called his production studio.
Oh, there you go.
Think? It was another business that he had. I think it was called Q Productions. So
that makes more sense.
I think that's what it means. I hope. Because, how do you
have that kind of access to a celebrity's father?
Right? That's kind of interesting. So, after a few months, he relented and allowed Yolanda to open this fan club. She was president. She was made president of the fan club, so she basically ran everything for it. She collected the dues. She registered the new people. She sent out the fan merch, which was autographed pictures, T-shirts, that kind of stuff. When people paid their $22 to join.
Join the fan club.
Yes.
So in May of 1992, shortly after she had eloped and done all that, and her dad kind of got over the whole situation, she released her third studio album, Entre a mi mundo. Sorry, that is my 4 years of high school Spanish.
There it is.
Gone.
Entre.
So this album was critically acclaimed. It was considered her breakthrough album, and it peaked at #1 on the U.S. regional Mexican album chart for Billboard, and it stayed there for 8 consecutive months.
My God.
That's a long motherfucking time, guys.
That's a long time.
To hold its position like that. This actually caused her to become the first female artist to sell a Tejano album like that. To sell over 300,000 copies.
No shit.
How crazy is that?
Like, she
did it.
Yeah.
Remember, they were all like, you can't do it because you're a girl, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? She can.
She can.
On September 17th of 1993, she actually set another record for Tejano artists in that she put on a concert, Nuevo Leon,
Listen to her
and it was
Spanish.
attended by 70,000 people.
70,000.
Again, the largest act. That essentially was the largest in Mexico because of that many people. 70,000 freaking people.
But don't worry, she can't entertain a crowd like a man could.
Because you silly little women.
In 1993, Selena released an album called Live. This would become one of her most successful records and actually earned her a Grammy nomination and award.
It did, and it was actually recorded during a free concert in the Memorial Coliseum in Corpus Christi, which is what she considers to be her hometown.
Yes. That's where she was raised. That's yeah.
Live was certified gold because 500,000 copies in the United States and 250,000 copies in Mexico.
It was a crazy, crazy popular album. And
Like
I read that there was some doubts that a live album could possibly win a Grammy. That these EMI dudes seem to doubt the skill and talent of Selena, and like she has proven so many people wrong.
She really did.
Why would you doubt that? She'd become such a huge star within the Tejano music scene, and she was starting to slowly drift into the mainstream. She started bringing Tejano into mainstream music.
Yep. And people were being very receptive to that.
Yes, they were.
So, there is another question that I have about the movie, actually. Remember in the movie, the most amazing scene, it's essentially like the Pretty Woman scene in Pretty Woman, but where Selena is at a store and they are shopping for the Grammys, right? Mm-hmm. And
I remember.
they want to try on a dress, and the store clerk is like, I don't think you can try on that dress. And she's just like, why, ma'am? We just want to try on the dress. And the clerk goes, that dress is $800. And she's like, could you please let us try on the dress? And as the store clerk's getting all like, stuck up and bitchy, essentially, people start to notice Selena is there.
I remember.
And by the time she brings the dress, her friend is in the dressing room trying on the dress, and everyone is mobbing her, surrounded her, and freaking out. And then the store clerk comes back and she's like, what's going on? And everyone's like, that's Selena. She's here for the Grammys. And Selena just kind of turns and looks at her and she's like, we actually don't need the dress. Bitch. I want to know if that actually happened. Don't be a bitch.
I love it when snooty bitches get their comeuppance.
Bitch.
So,
anywho.
Little Miss Grammy Award winner decided that she wanted to branch out into what I saw of her friend and fashion designer who ended up working with her say was her true passion, and that was fashion. So she opened up 2 boutiques called Selena Etc. Yes. These stores had they had all kinds of crazy awesome fashion, and they also were equipped with salons, in-store salons, so women could go and get their hair done while they shopped. And I saw her giving a tour of her salon. She was so proud of it, and she was just so proud of all the hard work she had done to get this open. And she basically, like, music was kind of her way to make money, but fashion was her passion. It was said that she actually created a lot of her own costumes and stuff that she wore on stage. Yeah, she was known for designing that. Her sister joked about how she would ask her, are you really gonna wear that on there, out on stage, for real? And I mean, you guys know her outfits. Her outfits are iconic, like, girl. The bustier. Oh my god, that purple outfit at the Astrodome. Oh my god. With the wide legs. Oh yeah, so good. So she opened these 2 boutiques. And she was also looking to expand into Mexico. And so she decided that she needed some help running these businesses.
She needed someone to help.
So who did she call? Yolanda Saldivar,
Yeah,
who had, over the last couple of years, been making herself essentially indispensable to the Quintanilla family, basically. She quit her job to become Selena's full-time personal assistant and to help her run her
Fashion
2 boutiques. She made herself, she ingratiated herself into Selena's life to the point to where Selena couldn't live without her, essentially. She handled everything from autograph signings to meet and greets to photo opportunities to appearances. She handled so much. And
if you look at pictures and video from
now that I know what I
years for a long time, you see this woman just right behind Selena the whole time, and all the photos and all the videos, she is right there.
Yeah, 100%. She essentially became like controlling of Selena and was kind of like a gatekeeper, keeping people away. She was in charge of Selena, and she would be the only one she would be who you'd have to go through in order to get to Selena. It got to the point where her family started thinking like, this is a little bit weird. And then like she was trying to be controlling of everything, including the fan club and the stores, to the point to where her fashion designer said that they had ordered some zippers and she had it sent to her house. So he sent one of his assistants to go pick up the zippers, and she said when she walked in, the house was essentially floor to ceiling pictures of Selena.
Man, like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know about all that. That's
that
crazy.
Would scare the hell out of me.
That's stalker.
Yeah. So Yolanda,
good old Yolanda,
good old friend Yolanda, my dear buddy. There's a story about a ring that she
I remember the ring
went
from the
around
movie.
to all the employees in the store in the 2 boutiques and asked them to chip in to help get Selena a thank you present. And happily, because Selena was somebody that everybody loved. She had such a kind heart. She was so very generous, and she was just an all-around nice human being.
Always said that she stayed super humble, regardless.
Very humble, yes. And so the employees absolutely wanted to chip in to get her a present. So it was found out, and this is probably like the first sign of some shit going down, that Yolanda collected the money and went and bought the ring. She pocketed the employees' money and bought the ring on the store's business credit card.
That's sketchy.
And then presented it to Selena as a gift from her and her alone.
That's sketchy.
Yes. Selena loved the ring. It was a Fabergé egg, which was something that Selena actually collected. And so when she was given this ring, it was really, like, it meant a lot to her.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big gift.
And she said that was essentially that was their friendship ring.
Poor Selena.
Poor Selena. She had no idea. So, in the beginning of 1994 is when Yolanda took over the 2 boutiques. By the end of 1994, the stores were suffering because they had lost so many employees.
People didn't want to work with her.
They didn't want to work with her. They were complaining to Selena about her inappropriate behavior. One of the employees said that he went to the dentist, and when he went to give them his insurance card, he was told, your insurance isn't valid. It hasn't been paid.
Oh.
She hadn't paid the insurance.
That's
and so when he
crazy,
went
lady.
to Yolanda and said, hey, why isn't my insurance paid? She said, don't worry, I'll fix it. Don't tell Selena, though. Girl, have you met me?
That's when you know you've dug yourself into a hole.
Yeah. So, the employees went to Selena with their complaints about Yolanda, and Selena didn't believe them. She loved and trusted Yolanda.
Yeah, she's a good person, and she wanted to see the best in people.
Yeah, so she
Specifically, her personal assistant and somebody she considered to be a very close friend.
Yes. So, getting tired of essentially being ignored, the employees ended up taking their complaints to her father, who actually took them seriously and warned Selena that she needed to be careful.
He probably knew. She still didn't believe any of it, though.
No,
she refused to accept it.
Yeah, she said Yolanda is a good person. She's a sweet person. I trust her. I love her.
She wouldn't do anything to harm my fashion businesses, things like that.
Yeah, she wouldn't do anything to harm me, essentially.
Yeah.
So, after this happened, Mr. Quintanilla, her father, started getting phone calls from fan club members saying, what's going on? I paid my $22. Where's my picture? Where's my shirt? Like,
They never
received anything. And so he started getting suspicious and decided to take a quick peeky-poo
at them books. It was discovered that she had embezzled right around $30,000.
Later said, and I don't know if he found this out, but he later said he suspected it was closer to 100,000. 100,000.
That is so much gosh darn money.
So he took this information to Selena, who said no, not true. It's not true.
But I mean, it was true.
It was true. It was very true. So he decided to set up a meeting. Yeah. So with Suzette, Yolanda, and Selena, and himself had a meeting where he presented the books to Yolanda and said, "What is this?" And copies of canceled checks that were written out to cash. All of these things, and she was just, I don't know. I have no idea. He presented her with unpaid bills, and he presented her with the fan complaints from the fan club, and she said she did not know. She had no idea. But
girl, you know.
She knew that she was stealing the money.
You know.
He fired her on the spot, basically told her to stay away from Selena and to stay away from his family. She was no longer the president of the fan club.
She needs to stay away from the businesses, the fan club, the whole deal. Essentially, get out of our lives.
Get out of our lives.
We want nothing to do with you.
But Selena, ever so kind-hearted, did not want to do that. So she basically she told Yolanda that she would still be allowed to be in charge of the boutiques in Mexico. And Yolanda accepted that, essentially, or basically pretended to, in my opinion. So basically, her father told, Yolanda that you either provide me proof that you did not steal this money or I'm going to the police. He later said he had absolutely no intentions of going to the police.
It was an empty threat. He just wanted to get it all back. Or he wanted to get the proof so he could probably, legitimately get Selena to see, this is a bad person. She's stealing money from your fans.
Yeah, she's stealing money from your fans. She's stealing money from your family. And, I mean, from what we learned about Selena, her family was basically her everything. And providing for her family was her everything. So she said she would find the proof, basically, and,
Didn't she eventually take off to Mexico?
She did, but before that, I believe, she actually had called Selena to arrange a meeting to basically talk about what was going on, and had purchased a gun. And this I heard in an interview with her father, in that he said he believed that she had on more than one occasion attempted to kill Selena, and this was one of them. She asked Selena to meet her somewhere so she could hand over some documents and discuss with her what was going on, and showed her a gun that she had purchased. Selena got angry. She was so angry because no guns. Guns are dangerous. And she was just like, you need to return that. So Yolanda did, in fact, return the gun. Her father believes that may have been attempt one, but she lost her nerve to kill Selena. After that, she did flee to Mexico.
She took with her actually some of Selena's legal documents, her bank statements, her bank
records,
records.
her taxes.
Yeah, she needed those things to do taxes on her stores, on everything. And so she took those with her.
When she returned, she was told by Selena that she needed to return the documents. She was kind of holding them essentially hostage. And her husband had said that they basically knew that they needed to kind of play her game to get all the stuff that they needed back. 'Cause she had it. She had the only copies of all of this really important information, so they had to kind of play her game.
Okay.
So she asked. She came to, I think it was Corpus Christi. Yolanda returned to Corpus Christi and checked into a Days Inn motel. And on March 30th, called Selena and said, "I'm here. I have your paperwork. Come and get it." So she and Chris, and this is what her father thinks is attempt number 2, she and Chris drove to the motel where Chris sat in the car directly outside of the room.
Room 158.
158, and Selena went inside. Did not, from what I understand, did not close the door. Either they stood in front of the window, but Chris could see what was going on. And I think Yolanda knew he was there, and Selena ended up leaving without incident. Nothing happened.
Also, a sneaky, manipulative bitch. They got down the road and realized
she had given them incorrect documents.
And she hadn't given them all the documents.
Yes.
There was shit missing.
Shit was missing.
What happened?
Shit was missing.
We're not getting shot at by laser guns.
No. Maybe. So shit was missing. So Selena said we have to go back, and he said not tonight. Absolutely not tonight.
He was like, we're not doing this again. This can wait.
Yeah. So she woke up the next morning. Didn't tell him where she was going.
That's
at all. Because
according to him, and I believe him.
I believe him 100%.
Or would not have allowed her to go back by herself.
Yeah, he would have told her no, or he would have made sure to go with her. And, you know, he seems to blame himself for what happened, and that he maybe could have stopped it from happening. I personally say the psycho bitch was a psycho, so, you know, there was no stopping.
There was no stopping that. I mean, I don't know. But, so she went back there, and Yolanda actually, and I don't know, this happened on that day, right?
This happened the very same
again.
day. She attempted to delay handing over the documents by telling Selena that actually she needed to go to the hospital.
Because she had been physically and sexually assaulted in Mexico.
Beaten with a baseball bat and raped in Mexico. So Selena, of course, being the kind-hearted good person, despite the fact that she was there to essentially fire this person because she now firmly believed that she had been stealing. Like, she no longer doubted her father and her employees. She firmly believed that she had been stealing from her. She was there to fire her, but as soon as she said, I need help, I need to get to the hospital, I was raped.
Yeah, I mean, what's she gonna do?
Absolutely, 100%.
She took her right to the hospital.
Absolutely, she did. And so, a regular physical exam was done on Yolanda. Not a pelvic one, though.
Well, what I read was, weirdly enough, the nurse told them that in order to get a full rape kit done, she had to go to San Antonio.
Where she was from, which was strange.
That is strange.
But that's because I guess the rape happened in Mexico and they wouldn't process them for Mexico. I don't know. But I did see, they actually interviewed the nurse that performed the exam, where Selena came to her, found her while they were waiting for the doctor, basically waiting for Yolanda to be discharged, and she asked her, do you believe her? And she said, what do you mean? She said, do you believe that she was raped? And she said, if she says she was raped, she was raped. And Selena was like, oh, okay. Because Selena knew it wasn't true. Yolanda did later admit that that was all a lie. She was never raped.
She was not. She used it as a tactic to continue delaying everything that was going on. I don't know if she was using it as a tactic necessarily to delay the inevitable, which she knew was going to end up in her killing Selena.
Yes. So they drove back to the Days Inn, and basically Selena was done at this point. She was over it. She was ready to get it done. She wanted to just handle it and leave. She wanted to go home. So she demanded the paperwork. Nobody knows exactly what happened between them in that hotel room. The person who has the ability to tell us what happened in that hotel room,
she won't speak
the truth. I watched the interview, and
she continuously, I will not talk about that. I will not speak on that.
Yeah, at 11:48 a.m., Yolanda pulled a gun from her purse, the gun Selena had told her to return. She had returned it, but she went back and bought it again, or another one.
I think it was a .38, right?
Yeah, .38 caliber revolver. Selena, upon seeing that gun, fled. But as she turned her back to Yolanda to open the door to run out, Yolanda fired one shot that entered through her right shoulder and exited out front. That shot severed her subclavicle artery, I believe it's called.
Yeah, I think so. And she did actually manage to, surprisingly, she got out of the room.
She got out of the room.
And she
fight
ran.
or flight, man, I tell ya.
Your body will do crazy things.
Crazy things when it feels like it has to. She ran 392 feet to the lobby of the hotel. They know that because of the trail of blood that was left behind.
There are reports of somebody hearing Yolanda follow her, saying the word bitch.
One of the maids said she'd actually witnessed the shooting, and that she said, you bitch, as she shot, so I'm not exactly sure which is true.
Oh, because the door was open.
Yeah, the door was open, so one of the maids was out there, and she saw, you bitch, saw the words, like her mouth form those words. But who knows, either way she did shoot her. And so Selena made it to the hotel lobby, and Yolanda made it to her truck, her red truck.
In the lobby, she was able to tell everyone who did it. She did say who shot her, and she said that she's in room 158. And she said her name, and they attempted to keep her alive and keep her awake.
They kept pressure on her wound, but it was essentially no use. It was an artery that was separated.
It was an artery that led away from her heart. So she was bleeding out pretty profusely. You can hear in the 911 call where they talk about it, and then at one point somebody recognized who she was. and that's when they realized that they had Selena bleeding out essentially in the lobby of their hotel. Yolanda attempted to escape, but 911 had already been called, and her truck and she were spotted by a patrol car who was responding to the 911 call.
Yes.
So they were able to block her in. She pulled into another spot right in front of the lobby, I think.
Yeah.
And that's where she stayed.
For 9.5 hours.
Yes. But within 2 minutes of the 911 call, thankfully, the ambulance had shown up.
Yes. Selena had basically become unconscious. The hotel manager said he watched as her eyes kind of rolled back into her head and she could no longer speak. She was basically passed out. She was unconscious. She was rushed to the hospital but was declared dead on arrival. However, that did not stop them from attempting to revive her, and they were able to actually get her to have an erratic heartbeat. They did bring her back, and so they took her immediately into surgery, but she ended up dying.
They were only able to try for about 50 minutes.
And she did end up passing away from massive blood loss and cardiac arrest. So... one of the emergency
I don't know if he worked in the emergency room or not. It was somebody I saw on the documentary said that essentially when they opened her chest to get in there to like see where the wound was, see where the blood was coming from, essentially that there was no blood in her chest.
She had lost some.
It was gone.
It was gone. There was gonna be no saving her, unfortunately. By this time, her family was notified. They were there. Her father knew immediately.
News crews everywhere.
Yeah.
Fans started to gather.
Immediately. As soon as he got to the hospital, when he saw everybody lined up in the hallway, he said it was more than just they had called him and told him she was in an accident. They knew immediately, as soon as he walked in, that she was gone. Now, meanwhile, back at the Days Inn, fans had started gathering by the hundreds, and so Yolanda had barricaded herself into her truck with the gun to her head. And
part of what the cops were trying to do was they were trying to get the radio stations to not talk about the fact that Selena was actually dead, but it was too big to hide it.
Too big to hide it.
So because they thought she would actually kill herself, legitimately kill herself if she found out Selena was dead.
Yeah, and it was the SWAT team and the hostage negotiators essentially were called in, and they were the ones who were trying to stop the radio stations, and they were trying to talk her down. And I had seen that one of them, there was the one that she was mainly talking to, his name was Larry, and they brought in another one who had mentioned that sometimes things happen with guns. Guns are dangerous. Sometimes they go off. And that's when she concocted her story about she had been planning to kill herself. And when she had told Selena to close the door, is what she said. She said, I told her to close the door. And that's when the gun went off. But what she didn't know is that her specific gun required 11 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger. So there's no way for it to accidentally go off.
Lying ass bitch.
So for 9.5 hours, she sat in her truck sobbing hysterically, screaming.
You can actually hear the legitimate call between them and her actually crying like that.
And I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't mean to hurt her. And then when she found out that Selena had actually passed, she's sobbing, not her, not her. Like, okay.
You killed her, you psycho.
You psychopath. You psycho-obsessed, possessive, controlling ass lunatic. So after 9.5 hours, she eventually surrendered. So the very following day, after the news had spread that Selena had passed away, a vigil was held in Corpus Christi for Selena, and over 3,000 fans showed up to this vigil. Her coffin was put on public display, and fans lined up for over a mile to get in to see her.
There were rumors, however, during that that the casket was actually empty, that there was no one inside, so the family actually decided at that point to have an open casket. But they requested no video, no photos, no news. They didn't want pictures of their,
Deceased daughter. They
didn't want that floating around in the media. Nobody needs to see that. That's awful.
Absolutely not.
It's estimated that about 30 to 40,000 people passed by that casket.
Yeah.
Which is pretty intense.
That's amazing. She impacted so many lives. On April 3rd of 1995, she was buried at Seaside Memorial Park in Corpus Christi. With the permission of the family, the service for burying her was actually broadcast on news channels and radio stations. And, so many people tuned in to listen because it was a private ceremony, the burial. It was only, I think it said 600 people were in attendance, and that was mostly her family and friends and people she had worked with.
So her murder actually, like her death, was considered to be, it was discussed on the same level as John Lennon, Elvis Presley, even JFK. Like that is the level of impact that it had. That's when she was essentially referred to as the Mexican Madonna.
Yeah.
Because she was such an icon.
I've seen that, like, her family didn't really like that nickname because she wasn't the Mexican Madonna, she was Selena.
She was Selena.
She was her own.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
100%.
Recently, like, very shortly after her death, Howard Stern decided to insert himself into the situation, and this motherfucker. So he decided to make fun of her death. He basically was making fun of her life, making fun of her family, making fun of people for being sad. He played her music with gunshot sound effects in the back of, like, behind them. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
There's a quote from him, and it says, quote, "This music does absolutely nothing for me. Alvin and the Chipmunks have more soul. Spanish people have the worst taste in music. They have no depth."
Racist piece of shit.
You fucking scumbag.
So after he did that, there was a warrant put out for his arrest, and I'm not sure if it was tied to this or not.
It was for disorderly conduct.
Disorderly conduct. And after that happened, he ended up apologizing.
He apologized in Spanish, which I thought was an interesting touch.
Yeah.
Saying
I think
that
he wanted to seem genuine.
Yeah, he never meant to add more harm or cause more distress to the family and the friends and of the people that she loved and all this stuff, blah, 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 nonsense.
Really? You said what you said.
He lost some advertisers.
Oh yeah, he lost major advertising dollars. That's a huge deal. And actually, like, as a side note, we don't, like, I work for radio stations here in Reno. We don't air him. He is, like, we wouldn't air somebody like that. He's a shock jock. We don't do that shit. Sorry.
So one other interesting tidbit, though, was that People magazine actually released a magazine about her several days after her murder. They didn't think that interest would continue, but interest just grew. So eventually it became a collector's item. It sold its entire first and second, like, publishing within the first 2 weeks. And
Holy shit,
it became the first in history of People magazine to do that.
That's really cool.
So that just shows her impact.
Absolute, her impact. And I think we may have forgotten to mention that just before she was killed, she was actually greenlit by EMI Latin, EMI Records, to start her crossover album. She had recorded 4 songs in English, and her family was unfortunately left with this difficult decision of what to do with these 4 English songs after she had passed. It wasn't a complete album, obviously, but they released it.
They did. Thankfully, they released it because we ended up with some really beautiful songs.
Gorgeous songs. We just listened to Dreaming of You earlier, and I Could Fall in Love. I love those 2 songs.
Every word, we sang them.
Every word.
Now, on April 12th in 1995, 2 weeks after her death. I know. 2 weeks after her death, George Bush, who was the governor of Texas at the time.
President George W. Bush.
Yes, he ended up declaring that April 16th was officially Selena Day in Texas,
yes.
which is amazing.
That's a wonderful thing to do.
Except for the fact that some of the public's reaction was that, but what if it falls on Easter?
Easter's more important than Selena Day.
First of all, every day is a something day. So today can be, or that day can be Selena Day.
Yeah.
Every day is
could be
Cupcake
National
Day.
Eat 17 Hot Dogs Day. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take anything away from you and your celebration, your religious celebration. You know, I thought that was highly offensive to say that, oh, well, what if it falls on Easter? Well, so what if it does? Does that take it away from you? I'm sorry, but people just get up in arms about shit that doesn't even affect them or hurt them. So other people said that, you know, Selena Day was important, and that the people who had complained could have handled it better. They were very disrespectful about it.
They were incredibly disrespectful.
I absolutely agree. That's horrifying to me. So April 16th is Selena Day in Texas, which I think is fantastic.
I'm glad.
October of 1995. What happened?
Oh, Yolanda was found guilty of first-degree murder.
And what I like is that the prosecutor did not allow for any conviction less than first-degree murder.
Thank you.
He said it was either guilty of first-degree murder or guilty of, or not guilty, essentially. No other option. So
there were no deals. He wasn't trying to work any deals to get her off on anything less than.
Her attorneys had actually tried to concoct a story, like we had mentioned earlier, about her saying it was an accident. And I had watched an interview with her where she did end up actually discussing what they had talked about in this. showed me exactly how psychotic this woman was.
She's fucking psychopath.
She said that what she had done was she quit. She was not fired. She quit. She told Selena, I can't work for you anymore. And Selena fell on her feet, fell at her feet begging, please don't leave me. I can't do this without you. And she said, no, Selena, I can't work for you anymore. It's over. And then she said she was going to kill herself. And Selena tried to stop her by opening the door to go get, I assume, help or something. And that's when she said Selena went out at an angle, whatever that means. And she said that she opened the door and she said, Selena, close that door, and swung the gun around, and that's how it shot her in the back. Okay,
No,
psycho.
that's not how that works.
That's absolutely not how that works. Again, like we said, 11 pounds of pressure. Those guns don't accidentally go off.
So, as most of you I'm sure know, if you loved it as much as we did growing up, in 1997 a movie was released called Selena.
Starring Jennifer Lopez.
It was starring Jennifer Lopez. And I think she did an outstanding job playing Selena. The movie was actually my first introduction to Selena.
Yes, we were very young when Selena passed. I don't remember when she died.
I think we were 9.
Yeah, we were 9, so
8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, and she was just kind of making her big break into more of the mainstream, so we didn't really know her. And we saw the movie Selena, and I completely fell in love with that movie. I fell in love with Selena as a person and the way that they portrayed her, and they portrayed her so beautifully in the movie. Her family definitely had input on how it was done. I saw that her husband had come to visit the set and was filmed for one of the guitar playing scenes, because the guy that they cast to play him couldn't actually play the guitar.
Oh, cool.
So for close-up shots, it was actually her husband playing the guitar. Like, he's in the movie. That's really cool. I just remember we watched that movie a bunch, and then we would listen to the English songs because we didn't speak Spanish.
No.
And we weren't familiar with her Tejano music. But we listened to the English songs, and we would sing it, and we would dance around the living room. And I remember, and I was talking to her about this earlier, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget to say it, but every time I watched it, I just really wished that there was a different ending.
Me too.
Because she was such a beautiful person who made such an impact on so many lives. I watched interviews, and I actually kind of teared up today watching all of these interviews with these people whose lives that she touched, and these little girls that she inspired. She was saying, like, the impossible is not it. You have to believe that the impossible is possible. Basically, she was inspiring them to be the best that they possibly could, and that was just like, I started tearing up at work. I was like, oh God, like how unfair. How unfair.
It's completely awful that she lost her life so tragically, and that this woman got to continue. I mean, she ended up going to prison. She does interviews from prison.
She does interviews from prison, and she's eligible for parole in 2025. So that's coming up. Like, that's not that far away.
Guys.
That's not that far away.
Most people who are convicted of first-degree murder don't get out on parole.
I guess that was the maximum sentence they were allowed to issue in Texas.
In Texas? Isn't that the state that just, like, kills people all the time?
You'd think, right? But
I mean, that's how it works, so. Yeah.
Selena's influence on pop culture was also so huge that MAC Cosmetics released a collection for her, and it was their #1 best-selling celebrity collection, basically.
Yeah,
I
that
think,
collection was beautiful.
didn't you try to get something and it was just everything was gone?
This collection came out kind of in that weird time, I think, when we were not super following makeup anymore.
Oh.
We had what we had, and occasionally I'd see something, and I saw this collection, and I was like, oh shit! And I wanted it, but it was gone. It was gone by the time I really figured out what it was.
Yeah.
Just because I knew Selena, like, I loved her music. The music that we knew, I loved it so much. The movie, I loved it. I always found her life so intriguing, and she was just this beautiful person. And, yeah, but unfortunately we did miss that. But
we did miss that collection.
Pretty cool to find out that it's MAC's best-selling celebrity.
Yeah, it's their best-selling celebrity collection ever, which is really cool. And that just continues, like, that shows, like, continuously, like, how she still impacts society today. She's such a huge influence on society today, and this is how many years later, she was an icon. She remains an icon. She's a legend now.
Yeah, she really is.
The queen of Tejano music.
Yep. So, hopefully you guys, I don't want to necessarily say enjoyed this, but hopefully you found it interesting. And enjoyed that aspect, and enjoyed us telling the story of her life. And if you did, please feel free to give this video a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button down below. If you haven't done so already, I know we both had a blast.
I love
learning about
her.
Selena. More so than we already knew, because again, that movie was a favorite when we were growing up. Adored that movie.
Yes, we did.
So leave a comment down below give us a couple more ideas on who you want us to cover. We love discovering new people. We've covered, Selena is somebody we knew. Aaliyah was somebody we knew. Mac Miller, not so much. Neither one of us knew much about him.
Yep.
But he was a good one that we found pretty interesting.
Yep.
So, again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And we will see you guys very, very soon.
Very, very soon.
In the next video.
In the next one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.